Hello, welcome to the Morning Standup. My name's Stacey K, and today we're going to be talking about South Park, Pete Buttigieg, Sydney Sweeney, and Fantastic Four. All right, so first I want to talk about Fantastic Four. Okay, it was fun. The first actually good Fantastic Four we've ever seen. This movie was set in a different universe or whatever from Marvel, which I thought was pretty cool. It was like a retro-futuristic universe. I've talked about Superman a little bit before, so these movies came out a few weeks apart, and they were both like actually good, unlike a lot of the Marvel movies that came out. It had great visuals. I liked it, had a lot of fun. It had a few problems, which I think are more like script problems. This movie needed to be longer. That's crazy to say about a Marvel movie because, you know, usually they're way too long with too many character introductions and all that. But I think this movie needed about an extra 20 and 30 minutes. I'm gonna talk about the Fantastic Four spoilers. And if you haven't seen the movie, it came out like 2 weeks ago, so it's on you, honestly. But if you don't want to hear the spoilers, don't watch this video, or skip to about 10 minutes from now, because I feel like that's as long as it's gonna take me to do. We saw Galactus, a real good Galactus in this movie. The premise for the movie is basically Galactus is a world-consuming power. He eats planets, and he has a herald, which is the Silver Surfer, who goes to the planet and announces that Galactus is gonna come eat the planet. This has happened many times in comic book history, and he never actually eats Earth. Well, maybe he does. I don't know. There's probably some time where he wins, but somehow they always figure out how to stop him. And it usually involves the Silver Surfer betraying him. One thing that makes it interesting is Sue is pregnant with a seemingly normal child, but when they go to talk to Galactus, he wants the child in exchange for not destroying the planet. And of course, Sue is an irrational woman, right, who doesn't want to give up her baby. So she's like, no, we're not going to do that. So, so they get back to the planet and they tell people that Galactus wanted the child, and everyone kind of gets mad at them. I feel like they don't get as mad at them as they would in real life. They were just kind of like a little bit of an angry mob outside the tower. And I feel like it was like really understated how upset people would be if that happened in real life. Honestly, I feel like this movie was missing Dr. Doom. The main conflict of the movie was like the people saying we should trade the baby to Galactus to save the world, and then Sue's all upset about it, and Reed Richards is trying to do the logical thing, basically. And really the only person who voices that they definitely should give up the baby is some weird guy on network news. He was like a Vivek Ramaswamy, like the pragmatic asshole who's like, we should talk about giving up the baby, right? And I felt like that was weak. That was just a no-name guy. He wasn't even named in the movie, and it didn't feel like very pressing. Between the revelation of Galactus wants the baby and whenever they come up with a plan to try to deal with Galactus. And I think right there, it would have been really nice to have Dr. Doom telling the world that the Fantastic Four are a bunch of, you know, traitors and they ain't shit. They need to save the world. They need to give up their child to Galactus to save the world. Because Dr. Doom, he's not just straight up evil. He sees himself as a savior of the world. So it would make sense for him to be advocating for that. And I think that having an asshole making the logical point would have made the conflict feel a lot more like real. And I didn't really feel like in the movie that the Fantastic Four were actually scared of people taking away their child, because in the movie Sue just like takes her baby and just like walks down to the angry mob to talk to them. And I don't feel like that was a very secure thing for her to do if we're talking about an actual real-life angry mob who thinks the world's about to be destroyed unless she gives up her child. So I really feel like the movie missed having Dr. Doom, and I think the main reason he wasn't in it at all, except for a post-credit scene, is because they're saving Robert Downey Jr. for the next movie or whatever. Or maybe it was a contract deal where Robert Downey Jr. didn't want to be in this movie. That's my main gripe with the movie. I really liked the Thing and Johnny's, the Human Torch's dynamic, which is kind of like a buddy cop deal where they're talking shit to each other. I feel like that the Thing was underserved in this movie, which he's like how Wolverine is with X-Men. The Thing is that way with the Fantastic Four. He's kind of like usually kind of the heart of it. And I think he's the most interesting character of the Fantastic Four because he hates his powers. Like, he thinks that his powers have ruined his life. He thinks he's a monster. He's got body dysmorphia. He's very insecure about it. He like wears coats and stuff to like try to obscure the fact that he's this rock monster. And the whole movie, people like on the street are trying to get him to say it's clobbering time, which is apparently not something he actually says, but was just in the cartoon, and he's getting kind of a little upset at people telling him this thing over and over. And I think it would have worked a little bit better if you let audiences know, because if I had just watched that movie, I had no idea that the Thing hated the way his body was. And he's basically a disabled superhero, a superhero with body dysmorphia. And I think that if they went a little bit more on, he thinks he's a monster, he lost his girlfriend or whatever, you didn't know anything about that going into the movie. And people coming up to him, telling him to say it's clobbering time, makes him feel like a circus act or like someone in a zoo that all these people watch and whatever. And it's basically like almost an ableist insult, right? Like these people are talking about him like he's another species or whatever. And the Fantastic Four at the end of the movie, the way they beat Galactus is they just try harder, basically. They're just like, Sue just pushes him really hard, and they do the Fantastic Four thing where they all help out a little bit. And of course, Mr. Fantastic gets stretched out as he always does. But like I just didn't feel like it had the same impact as it would have if there had been some dumb bitch in their ear telling them they should give up their child, and they're a bunch of selfish assholes for not saving the planet or whatever, and then to like save the planet without the giving up the child. That would have been cool. Back to Ben not getting enough screen time. So they had Natasha Lyonne. She's a really, really likable actress. I think she's like good casting for this, but she was just kind of like ham-fisted into this movie, and maybe it was because they cut some stuff, but they were just like, we have to get Natasha Lyonne to talk to the Thing a few times. But it didn't like mean a whole lot. And I just feel like the Thing, all he did mostly was just fly the plane really good, and then he did a good punch at the end of the movie after he said it's clobbering time, of course. That's all. Fantastic Four was a fun movie. I would definitely not say it was bad. It was one of the better Marvel movies I've seen, but it just felt like it was more like they were completing an assignment than it was like them actually saying something. And I feel like that Superman like actually had like heart to it and had something it was trying to say. And Fantastic Four was more just trying to do what their bosses told them to do. All right, so that's enough for movies for now. I'm gonna talk a little bit about what I've done the last week or so. I went to Fire Island, which is a little island off of Long Island, and it's super gay. It's so gay that you're weird if you're straight, and I don't think I've ever been at a place like that. There was a lot more gay dudes than gay girls, which I feel is sad. It's always a sad reminder that gay dudes have a lot more money than gay girls, because a lot of gay dudes are still white dudes, right? And they got the money, and they can still get the good jobs. I mean, it's not like all lesbians are poor, but I didn't mean to launch into discourse about that. But that was fun. First time visiting Long Island. It's a very different place than New York City. I definitely prefer New York City because I like the fast pace. I like the garbage, and I like how you can smell piss on every concrete, every sidewalk. It's just like, oh, someone's been here, right? On the internet, everybody's been talking about the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring.
And I think that some people have maybe overreacted in calling her a Nazi. And there've been some really inflammatory stuff said about her, but I mean, the ad says it has her like doing sexy stuff and then talking about how genes are passed down, whatever.
Often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color.
And the line that I think should have been cut if they didn't want to cause all this discourse was when she says,
My genes are blue.
my genes are blue. Which, if you know the history, it's a pun, right? It's a pun about whether, about her genes, her literal genes, but then also her genes. And having her genes be like a joke about her boobs, like that's kind of funny. But bringing up the blue part, the history of blonde girls with blue eyes talking about how great their genes are, it's not great. There was this country in the 1930s called Nazi Germany that was huge on that. And I don't know how much Nazi propaganda you guys have seen. And I'm not talking about the war stuff with the angry Hitler yelling over it. I'm talking about the stuff where they show like blonde hair, blue eye families or young men or women or whatever, and talking about how we need to protect them or whatever like that. Stuff that looks friendly, but if you think about it for 2 seconds, you're like, whoa, wait a second. What is the point of this ad? Okay. But the worst thing, which I didn't immediately know about the ad, was how much it ripped from an ad from the 80s.
Genes are fundamental in determining the characteristics of an individual and passing on these characteristics to succeeding generations.
It was a Calvin Klein ad with Brooke Shields, who was 15 at the time. And you saw Sydney Sweeney's ad. You saw how sexy it was. Brooke Shields' thing was very similar to it, almost like the same script. She's 15. She's 15 in this ad for this Calvin Klein stuff. And Brooke Shields, she's talked a lot about how she felt like she was taken advantage of her whole young career. And with that context, I know that the American Eagle people knew about that ad because they took a lot of elements from it. And I think there's a lot of people just didn't even know about it. But after I saw the ad, I was like, damn, dude. Like, I don't know if you guys should have published this stuff. I think American Eagle knew what they were doing. They knew that people were going to talk about this, and I think that was the point. And to act like American Eagle is like victims for talking about stuff that they intentionally did to basically rage bait and drive discourse. Come on, American Eagle's a huge company. They have a marketing department who signed off on this and a head of marketing who was like, this is a good idea, we're gonna get people talking. So they're not victims in this scenario. I would hesitate to call Sydney Sweeney a fascist or whatever. I know that her mom had a party where some people were wearing knockoff MAGA hats, but I know people with worse families than that who try to hide and obscure it, so I don't want to say that exactly, but if I was Sydney Sweeney, I would feel very uncomfortable about attaching my name to this. I hope they gave her a ton of money. I'm pretty certain they gave her a ton of money to do this. I don't think she needs that much money, man. She's getting whatever she wants. Like, what is that Spider-Man movie she was in for like 2 seconds? The Spider-Woman movie? I can't remember what they called it. It was really bad, and she got to be in the costume for literally, I think it was 2 seconds. So, you know, big roles like that were coming out of the thing for Sydney Sweeney. She did SNL. She hosted SNL, right? Why you need this dog whistle American Eagle ad. And it's hard for me to be too upset about the ad in particular, because I see the stuff our government is posting, right? Like that the DHS post, which was they posted the painting of not Lady Liberty, but like Justice, the lady in the white outfit who's like floating. She represents Manifest Destiny apparently, and she's like leading the settlers like across the west. And then to the side of the painting is like, which is a lot darker, there's a bunch of like Indians, and they're on their horses, and they're like fighting the people. So it's like the whole painting is like, we're gonna we're gonna eliminate the Indians and take over the land. Like, that's the point of the painting. And let me read what it actually said. But the DHS, which is the Department of Homeland Security, right? That's run by Kristi Noem, and they're basically in charge of deporting people. It says, a heritage to be proud of, a homeland worth defending, American progress, John Gast. And then it just posts that picture. And this is the official Homeland Security Twitter page. And when you see stuff like that from the government, it really makes the American Eagle ad just like, yeah, that sucks, but at least it's not our literal government posting a Nazi picture. So, yeah, it's hard for me to get too upset, but it is this ad would not have come out 4 years ago, and my country's changed, man, rapidly. It's nuts. Oh, the South Park episode that came out, the new season 27, which is remarkable that it's still culturally relevant 27 seasons into it. Like, think about The Simpsons being relevant, right? That's basically the amount of seasons they've had. But South Park is still at the top of this game with the political satire that it does. The episode opens with Cartman, and he wakes up and he's brushing his teeth, and he tells Siri to put on NPR, and it's just dead air. And he asks his mom, what's wrong with NPR? And then she says the president canceled it. And he gets really upset because he liked to listen to NPR because he thought it was funny for, in his words, I think he said lesbians and Jews complain about stuff, and he thought it was hilarious, and he was upset that Trump would cancel it, which I think is a really funny revelation that Cartman listens to NPR. And if you've listened to NPR, it's pretty woke and has a bunch of, there's something called NPR Voice where it's like some white ladies, they're like, hi, welcome to NPR. Today we're talking about this. The people, it's like very calming. And it's so funny to think that Cartman listens to that on purpose because he thinks it's hilarious. And then he like loses the will to live because he says woke is dead. He's wearing a shirt that says woke is dead. And he tries to kill himself with a car, but it's an electric car. He's got like a water hose from the back of the car into the thing, trying to asphyxiate himself. But he can't do it because it's an electric car, and he doesn't know that because he's a kid. But then they brought Trump out. But this season, they literally put like a real picture of Trump's face on top of a South Park character. His mouth opens this way. I thought for a minute he was Canadian because that's how South Park portrays Canadians. But it's referencing a really old bit, which is about Saddam Hussein. And they're using the same voice that Saddam Hussein had. So they're trying to like portray him as a literal dictator. And he is in bed with Satan. Like Satan's just sitting in his bed, and he comes home multiple times in the episode and like takes all his clothes off and then tries to sleep with Satan, and Satan is not into it. And they did this after the Colbert Show announced that it was being canceled. And I did not expect the South Park guys to be the defender of the Stephen Colbert Show, right? Because the Stephen Colbert Show is a very broad show, inoffensive. It's like they were daring CBS to cancel them because they just got a $1.5 billion deal for the next 5 years, 50 episodes in 5 years, $1.5 billion. And I think it's guaranteed if they cancel the show, they'll still have to pay them all that money. That was like I was like gasping in the episode. It was one of the most offensive things, not offensive to me, but offensive to the kind of people who still don't hate Trump. And they ended the episode with apparently Trump was going to sue the city of South Park for like $7 billion. And they talked him down to $3 billion, where they just had to gut their entire city funding. But the stipulation was that they had to do pro-Trump messaging. The town of South Park made an ad, and they just play the ad, and the ad is an AI-generated like live action video of Trump walking in the desert. And at the beginning of the ad, it says 1 of 50, so implying that they're going to do 50 of these ads over the next 5 seasons of just Trump. It is brutal. It shows Trump walking around in the desert, and it says like, Trump fights for you. He crossed the desert, and he's really hot, so he's taking off his clothes, and he just strips down and is naked, and he just falls over, and he's like fat and stuff, and then they show his dick, and it's like really tiny and really skinny, and the episode ends, and it cuts back to Cartman and Butters, who he has bullied into killing himself. And as the episode's ending, it has Cartman telling Butters, "I love you," and which is, Cartman's not a nice person. He doesn't say stuff like that. But I think that was a stand-in for Matt and Trey, the creators of South Park, basically saying they loved each other in case the show got canceled. And I thought it was, I haven't seen a episode of a comedy show drive discourse like that. It was crazy. I can't wait to see what the next episode is. But bro, like, these guys, they've been doing it for 27 seasons, and they make fun of everybody. I think that South Park has always been about true libertarianism, and they hate hypocrisy, and they just go after that. And they go after who's in charge. And that makes sense. I'm still a little bitter with how they portrayed Mr. Garrison. And I understand it was more nuanced if you actually watch the episode. It's not saying that trans people are the devil. But I still think Mr. Garrison is, when people think about trans people, I think they're thinking of Mr. Garrison from South Park. They think we're all that. And that sucks. But, you know, it's not really, I don't feel like it was their fault. Idiots misinterpret everything. People take a Full Metal Jacket, the war movie about Vietnam, which was like the most brutal depiction of the Marines and the basic training stuff, and just the whole mindset behind the Vietnam War. Just absolutely horrible. But military people have taken that movie and think it's the coolest thing in the world, even though the whole point of the movie was that these people are terrible people and it needs to change. And I don't think that's on the creators. I think that Trey and Matt are probably the kings of comedy. Like, that's what it's supposed to be about. You're supposed to talk shit about the people in power. You're supposed to point out hypocrisy. You're supposed to not mitigate your message based on trying to appeal to people. You gotta make it funny. You gotta make jokes. You gotta make it ridiculous. And I'm tired of hearing about Epstein after all these years, honestly. But a lot of people really care about it. And the way Trump is navigating it is like it's a bull in a china shop. Like, you really need to, if you're a politician, especially if you're depicted with all those ties with Epstein and stuff, you need to be careful about what you say. And Trump is not a careful guy, I would say. I can't imagine being one of his interns or PR people trying to, like, tell him, like, okay, so don't say this, say these words instead, talk about that. And I don't think that he's good at that kind of stuff. I heard... I know comedy people, so I heard when he was on SNL, he was terrible at following cue cards, like off screen or whatever. It's just not how he operates. And if you watch his speeches and his rallies, he does not seem like a guy who's following a teleprompter. So I don't know if he's even capable of operating that way. And this is just like the perfect issue to just fumble through. So I keep thinking that he's gonna put out the fire by doing something, giving something, some kind of list that people can see and satisfy them or whatever. But it seems like at every turn he just antagonizes them and just makes it worse for himself. So we'll see how far this thing goes. Who knows? I do know in the polling, Trump is he is more unpopular with independents than he has ever been in the history of Trump polling. Even after right after January 6th, independents had the lowest opinion of him ever recorded, and this is lower than that. And Republicans can't just win with the Republicans. They got to win a decent amount of independents too. So if we had an election next week, I'm pretty sure he would definitely lose. But there's a lot of time between now and fucking 2028. Guys, we got 3 more years of this. We got 3 more years of this bullshit. Do you understand? It feels like for 3.5, really. We're only like 6 months into this thing. We got the midterms in 2026, but Trump will still be around till 2028 unless he dies, which is a significant chance, I would say. He's an old dude. He's got some circulatory issues, and those kill old people sometimes. But he doesn't drink. He doesn't apparently consume really any substances. I feel like he does amphetamines. I feel like he does at least like Adderall or something like that for his speeches, because he talks like a dude who does Adderall, a lot of it, some kind of stimulants. And I feel like if I was his doctor, I would be like, hey, stop doing stimulants. That's not good for your heart. But who knows if he listens to him. Right, yeah, so that's an overview of the Epstein scandal or whatever, which we've been now covering for 20 years, it feels like. But that's the current state. I want to talk about Pete Buttigieg today. He had an interview. I saw it on NPR. It was like an 11-minute interview, but Them magazine, right? The LGBT thing. They posted they posted a headline of it that was built for clickbait, and it makes it sound like Pete Buttigieg is coming out against trans people in sports. He says Pete Buttigieg says trans athletes in women's sports raise serious fairness issues, right? That's the headline, and that sounds bad, right? It sounds like he's like, we need to kick trans people out of sports, but that's not what he's saying. And listen, I did organizing. I went to the Capitol. I lobbied. I spoke in hearings. I talked to. I tried to talk to Republicans. Republicans won't meet with us. In Missouri, the Democrats there look at us like a dog they know is about to be put down, and they can't do anything about it because they don't have any. There's only like, 20% of the House, or maybe 30% of the House is Democrat. They really have no power whatsoever. So they just kind of look at me like I'm sad, like a sad puppy they know is going to be put down, and they can't do anything to stop it. And like I tell them, like, I'm planning to move out of Kansas City. I'm going to move to Baltimore instead. And they were like, yeah, that's a pretty good move. I would do that too if I was you. That's basically what they would tell me. And I want to read more about what Pete actually said. He said, I think the approach starts with compassion. Compassion for transgender people, compassion for families, especially young people who are going through this, and also empathy for people who are not sure what all of this means for them, like wondering, wait a minute, I got a daughter in a sports league. Is she going to be competing with boys right now? And just taking everybody seriously. I think when you do that, that does call into question some of the past orthodoxies of my party. For example, around sports, where I think most reasonable people would recognize that there are serious fairness issues if you just treat this as not mattering when a trans athlete wants to compete in women's sports. And a bunch of people got upset about that. But it is true. Trans women, we have testosterone that needs to be dealt with. Testosterone is a performance-enhancing drug. And even the male leagues, they test for it to make sure that your testosterone is not too high for a man. Like, you're considered to be doping and disqualified, and that doesn't matter at the lower levels. Nobody checks for that kind of stuff in most high school sports. But for all of the major stuff, especially like the fighting sports and things, they're checking for doping. They're checking to see if your testosterone levels are too high. And women's sports, they are allowed some testosterone, but there's also a threshold where if they're too high, you're considered to be doping. So it's not crazy to say that there are fairness concerns. And he keeps going, and someone talks about whether people have a case against trans girls in sports. And Buttigieg says, sure. And that's why I think these decisions should be in the hands of sports leagues and school boards and not politicians in Washington trying to use this as a political pawn. That's literally what we would argue in these hearings. We would pull out at like a few scientists and doctors who would talk a lot about the issue and how hormones affect things and how trans women are not men. Like, a lot of people have been told that it's literally boys and girls sports, and that's not true. It's trans women in girls sports. And I don't know how many trans women you guys know, but we are a bunch of faggots, all right? Like, we are the kid on the team that would get bullied for wearing makeup, right? That's how it would work if we were in men's sports. And most of us kind of suck at sports. So we're really dealing with a non-issue as it affects, like, normal people. Like, the average person is not dealing with a trans athlete and stuff, because most of us don't even want to play. Most of us don't want to be perceived by anybody. We don't want to be involved in any major sort of thing like that. But I know people who played as a, like, I know, I had her on my podcast earlier, Lana Lux. She played volleyball in Missouri. She was the homecoming queen of her high school. I don't know if she was a senior or whatever at the time. She's a drag queen now in Kansas City. But she's a fucking girl. I haven't seen her play sports, but Lana, and I guess you've said this to me specifically, I don't think you were very good at sports. I don't think that Lana was out there crushing all of these girls in volleyball. She did play with the guys for a while, but like, she would actually wear makeup and stuff like this. It was a girl, like, she was on hormones and things like that. And it would be weird for her to play with the guys, and she just wants to play with the girls and fit in. She's not winning anything. And you need to, and it's not that trans people shouldn't be allowed to win, but we need to talk about, like, what's actually the issue. So talk more about what Buttigieg says. Chess is different from weightlifting, and weightlifting is different from volleyball, and middle school is different from the Olympics. So that's exactly why I think that we shouldn't be grandstanding on this as politicians. We should be empowering communities and organizations and schools to make the right decisions. And this was how it was before. It was 2022 when the anti-trans legislative push started happening, and they started passing all of these bills, getting them out of committee and passing them in a Republican state legislature. And now there are 27 states where trans girls are banned from playing sports, as opposed to pre-2022, where there were no states where trans girls were banned from sports. And it was left up to the sports leagues, it was left up to the schools, the school boards, the communities, and things like that. And it is on a case-by-case basis. It wasn't just like, oh, anyone can play girls' sports or whatever. It was like, this person can play girls' sports because, like, look at her, man. That girl cannot make it in a male's locker room. And she's been on hormones. She's not going to destroy the league or anything like that. And we should let her play just to be involved. This is not, almost none of this is high-level, super competitive girls' sports. We're not talking about college-level stuff. I know there's the swimmer Leah Thomas who tied for 5th with Riley Gaines and caused a huge outrage, but that is not the norm. That's not happening, especially at a D1 level. When you hear about trans athletes dominating something, it's usually like 3A high school sports, where it's very normal to have one girl who just dominates everybody in track, because there's only like so many participants. These are small schools. These are just, no one gives a shit about women's track at a 3A level. That's just the truth. And they try to blow it up and make it sound like we're dominating D1 and college level, and that's just not the case. We're banned from it all now too. So I don't even know how we can keep talking about this, because they achieved their objective. By the way, this whole episode is sponsored by Mountain Dew Baja Blast, the only Mountain Dew that will blast you like the Baja Boys, or what, Baja Men. That's who sings "Who Let the Dogs Out." Remember that song? That was crazy. That was in Rugrats, right? Or the Rugrats movie. Did they have "Who Let the Dogs Out" in the Rugrats movie?
It was in the credits.
In the credits, "Who Let the Dogs Out." That's how I knew the movie. I watched the Rugrats movie, and it was the Baja Men. But yeah, they make a good a good Mountain Dew, and I'm a big fan. So go out and buy a Blast right now. They did pay me to say that. All right, so I feel like that's all of the topical stuff. I wanted to talk about Am I the asshole post from Reddit, okay? Because I didn't do the necessary lead time and ask my fans to write in letters. And every time I do ask my fans to write in letters, it's usually a bunch of dudes asking how they can date trans women. Which, if you're one of those guys, I'm assuming you are, because you're watching my podcast, treat us like regular women and don't ask people how you can date trans women. Okay? All right. Now, we're going to talk about, we're going to do an Am I the Asshole post. What is it, from this day? Was it a top for this day? Okay, here we go. Am I the asshole for not letting my husband and child drink from my cup or eat from my plate? All right, I absolutely hate people picking off my plate or using my cup. Lately, my 2-year-old has started trying to pick food out of my plate with his fingers. He's obsessed with my water bottle, and if I put it within reach, he takes it and drinks out of it. I don't mind sharing food, as in putting some of it on his plate for him, but I'm just not wanting anyone putting their fingers in my food or backwashing in my water bottle. Okay, all right, I want to stop you right there. This baby was sucking on your nipples, right, and getting stuff out of your nipples, all right? That's not very sanitary. I don't know why you would think that that's more sanitary than fingers. I'm assuming you wash this baby's fingers, or else, yeah, you definitely wash this baby's fingers because you're OCD. So it's fine. It's fine. That's what babies do. They build up their. I know I sound like an anti-vaxxer when I say this, but they're building up their immune system. I believe that babies are supposed to sit in the dirt and eat dirt. I used to eat dirt. I used to eat literal dirt as a baby. Everyone ate dirt, right? I'm not weird. Okay, I'll admit this. Don't clip this and tell anyone else. When I was a baby, I was 2 years old, when I lived in Oklahoma, and I ate dog poop, okay? I didn't know better. I thought it was a hot dog because it was hot dog shaped, and I didn't do it multiple times, but I survived. I'm doing just fine, so I think your baby's gonna be okay if the baby's putting finger in your food or getting backwashing in my water bottle, okay? You're his mom. You guys have the same antibodies and stuff. You've been breathing the same air and he's been coughing in your face. That's just how it is when you're being a mom. And if you don't want a baby to be a baby, you should not have a baby. Okay, let's get back to reading the thing. My husband has now also started eating out of serving dishes or trying to use my fork. All right, do I need to give a lecture on what else your husband has been doing to you? Okay, he's seen that I try to teach our son, this is mama's plate, this is your plate. We can share, but you can't take food from my plate. My husband says I'm being a germaphobe and that we are family and we should all share, but I've never been a sharer of utensils. And as much as I love our family, I've gotten enough viruses from my son to know better. Okay, so viruses are mostly transmitted through respiratory. So your son breathing on you is probably much more likely to catch a virus than him eating some corn off of your plate or whatever it is you people eat. I also think it's important for a child to know boundaries. How old is this? Did she say how old this child was? 2. He's 2. He's 2. How is he supposed to know better? I also think it's important for a child to know boundaries. They can't just take other people's food. And a grown man should know he can't drink out of a milk carton or eat from a serving dish. Okay, maybe don't drink out of the milk carton unless there's a little bit, unless that's the last, you're gonna do last swig, okay? But so maybe you're right on that. But my husband said I'm being selfish and OCD about it and asked how I can look at our son and say no to him when he wants to share. Now I feel like a jerk. Am I the asshole? Okay. I don't know if I would say you're an asshole, but you definitely need to upgrade your Zoloft dose. I think, okay? This is a 2-year-old baby, and you signed up for raising a 2-year-old baby when you had a baby 2 years ago. And this is how it works, okay? Babies are pretty disgusting, and they carry diseases, and they catch a lot of little diseases because their immune system is new to this earth. And they also get a lot of immunity to things from their mom. So maybe you should have been a dirtier person so that your baby would get sick less. I say that as an expert in immunology. So, you know, you can definitely take that to the bank. Okay, so we're going to read comments now, what people think about whether she's the asshole. Grabbing food from another person's plate is disrespectful and unacceptable. Eating off the serving dish is the same. If someone does that at my house, they get kicked out and will never be welcome again. Wow, okay. If it is a family, well, I haven't experienced that yet because in my family, that was never done. OCD about it? Your husband doesn't seem to know what OCD is. No, I think the husband gets it. I think this person has OCD. This is probably a comment section full of OCD people trying to validate themselves here. He's a baby. He's 2 years old. He's gonna grab stuff from your plate, okay? Like, chill. He's a 2-year-old baby. Can he talk yet? He can probably say dad or mom, I'm assuming, but he doesn't understand a viral load or germ theory. There was a lot of people who didn't understand germ theory for most of human history, okay? So why are you expecting your illiterate, can't read shit, 2-year-old baby to know that he's spreading diseases by grabbing food off of your plate? And, okay, if you don't want to grab food off his plate, like give him a better plate. I don't know, maybe are you trying to feed him like salmon and spinach or something and he doesn't like it? Why is he grabbing off of your plate? Give him noodles and butter. That's what babies want. They want noodles and butter, maybe a little bit of cheese in there. Babies like that kind of stuff. So maybe that would work. But just wash his hands, and let him grab off of your plate. You're his mom. He's gonna do worse things to you over the next 18 years, okay? He's gonna take a lot of money from you too, so get used to it. He's gonna be disgusting. You're gonna have to teach him how to wipe his butt. You're gonna have to teach him all this kind of stuff, and he's gonna do it wrong all the time. So this is not even gonna register on the amount of gross shit you're gonna see your kid doing. And wait till he hits puberty. Imagine what he's going to do to your couch, okay? All right. Okay, all right, here's the second comment. Also, your husband sounds like a jerk who can't respect boundaries. Oh, that was a PS for the whatever. I don't know about the whole situation with the husband. Maybe the husband has more responsibility here. Is your husband grabbing from the serving dish with his bare hands? That doesn't sound like a thing that an adult human would do. And it depends what kind of food. What if it's a chicken strip? What if he's grabbing a chicken? That's fine. But if it's a green bean casserole and he's just sticking his hands in there, I wouldn't say it's a health concern, but it's just gross. You know, get a plate. But the husband's an adult. He's not a baby. He's not 2 years old. So you really got to give some slack for the 2-year-old. Here's another one. More like he doesn't want to respect boundaries. Yeah, I'm sure he's capable. The baby? Are they talking about the baby or the husband? I'm sure he's capable. He's choosing not to. Listen. Your husband probably drinks your pee, okay? If he's a good husband, he's definitely eating your pussy out, okay? That's not necessarily super clean. It's right next to your butthole, all right? Do you want a husband? Honestly, you might do better off dating a girl, because it's a lot easier to find, people who are more germ. I feel like that a lot of girls are more germ phobic than guys are. Would you agree with that? In the comments, let me know if my generalizations about girls having OCD and being germaphobes is correct. All right, somebody says, you're not the asshole, and of course your husband believes you're being the asshole because he's part of the problem. Divorce him! He's not the one having his food invaded and slobbered on, so he's looking at this from the perspective of not wanting to be told no or respecting your boundaries. And that's it. I didn't see any sort of comments that had a lick of sense in there. I feel like it's funny. She's talking about the baby. She's talking about the baby, but all the comments seem to be talking about the husband. So I think that a lot of these commenters have marital issues at home that they're projecting on, because there's not so much information. I need to know more about what kind of food the husband was taking from a serving dish to make an authoritative statement on whether the husband's an asshole. But the baby's definitely not an asshole, all right? If you're asking who's the asshole in the situation, you or a 2-year-old baby, the answer is you every single time, okay? The baby doesn't know enough to be an asshole. Listen. I come from a family, we had 3 other kids besides me. I've had a lot of little cousins that I've helped raise. And all of them eat like cavemen. You put on their serving plate, which they don't even want plates. You put it on like a high chair with a little, it's like a plate, a tray built into it, and they're just grabbing food and trying to stuff it in their mouth, and they're not very coordinated, so they get it all over their mouth, they get it all over the floor, and sometimes babies just throw shit on the floor on purpose because they think it's funny or they don't like the food and they don't know how to communicate it. So every baby I've ever known has done stuff like this, and I think it's better to, I don't know, I mean, do you want your baby to sit very far separately away from you when he's eating food? Or do you want to be a mom that your baby likes? You need to answer that question. And is this your first baby? This sounds like your first baby. Babies are gross. And they have immune systems, as long as, I mean, the first 6 months of a baby, I think their immune system is they need to be more protected and all that kind of stuff. But we're dealing with a 2-year-old who needs to be out playing in the dirt and being gross and sometimes eating bugs and stuff like that. That's what babies do. So I'm gonna, do I have my prescription pad here? I'm gonna write you a prescription for 1 chill pill with unlimited refills, and you fill that as often as you like, okay? And so I guess that's the podcast. Thank you guys for listening and for being very patient with all of my generalization takes. And also, I feel like this was a very anti-OCD episode. And it's not that I hate OCD people. I promise, I love OCD people. But some of you guys need to be on Zoloft, okay? And if Zoloft doesn't work, what is it, Prozac? Is Prozac a good OCD pill? Maybe try some Prozac. Talk to your doctor about the fact that you are so upset by your 2-year-old baby stealing your food that you made an Am I the Asshole post on Reddit. Show them the post. Show them all the people that you've talked to. I think it's important. Maybe get a psychiatrist, and he'll be like, okay, well, we'll start you on 50 milligrams of Prozac and see how that goes. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you liked the podcast, I'm trying to do it a more high-budget thing. As you can see, this is a new set. This is a new thing. It's not cheap. It's not my set. I'm renting a studio. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to the Patreon. As of now, you don't get anything extra from the Patreon, but you're supporting the channel and supporting more stuff like this. And I'll be able to do this more on a weekly basis and a more higher production video. I was supposed to have a guest for this episode, but scheduling issue, they're not going to be in America for the next month. They thought I was talking about August, even though I said July 3 different times in our comment thing. You should see him. I'll record with him in a month, and you'll be able to connect the dots and see who it is. I doubt he'll watch this video, so he'll have no idea I'm talking shit about him. It'll be pretty funny. That's coming up. Anyway, subscribe to the Patreon. You can see it in my links. And you guys have a good week. And yeah, don't do anything with. That's it. I'm done. I'm not gonna give you any more advice. Bye. See y'all.